Darren Dreger of TSN. Happy Friday, Dregs. How are you, sir?
I'm at a slow boil. I'm not going to lie right now.
Slow boil.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever have to deal with technology. I'm not very good at it, to be honest. So I'm a partial season ticket holder. So me and like 5 buddies, and we have a draft every fall to pick the Leaf tickets, go to the games you want. All right, well, I don't even remember where I picked, like first or second or whatever. And I thought, okay, well, this Marner return game in Toronto, kind of a big deal, right? So planning to go to the game, sit in the stands and just appreciate and experience everything that is going to go into this one. I can't download the tickets.
Oh, you got to call your ticket agent person.
I mean, you leave the app because you've got to reset your password and there's a verification code. And then you try and you copy the code to get back into the app and you're not on the right page there. So anyway, that's what I've been doing for the last.
Technology's great when it works, Driggs. That's it. Only good when it works.
You have a son that could help you. There's got to be someone tech savvy in your
yeah. No, empty nest. Which is, you're right. Normally that's what I would do, but in this circumstance, and then you call Ticketmaster and they're like, "Yeah, sorry, that's
Figure it
you're
out.
a season ticket holder, so yeah, that's not our problem. Call the Leafs." So anyway, we'll figure it out.
Are you cold out there? I heard it's very cold.
I heard it's going to be the coldest place in the world.
Yeah. Did you guys see that? I mean, coldest place in the world.
Dramatic. Yeah.
Like, what are we talking? And so I've got a sibling. My sister lives in Invermay, Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. She sent me their forecast yesterday, and I think the warmest day was -34, but it feels like -47, right?
The warmest day.
Yeah. And I'm looking at that going, okay, well, wait a minute. Like I'm like 30 minutes outside of the I'm part of the GTA, but Toronto, and it's like -12.
What are they talking about?
Like, what are we talking about? Like it is going to get colder, and maybe it gets close to like -25, 26. But I mean, to say it's the coldest place on Earth or even in North America is absurd. I mean,
dramatic.
Over dramatic.
My kids are outside skating. I don't know when it was recently, and it was cold here. -18, maybe. I don't even remember. But I called my mom because I'm like, as a concerned parent, is this too cold? And I said, did you ever once in your life say it's too cold to go and skate outside? And she's like, no. What are you talking about?
You can come in if it's too cold.
And I know I'm positive we were skating on the ODR when it was -30.
Yeah,
like no
guaranteed.
Issues. Let's go.
No, I mean there are several things living in Southern Ontario that these people, when I bring up these stories, look at me like I've got 2 heads on my shoulders. Like, one is, what's a block heater? You actually plug in your vehicle? What is that? That's crazy. Like it was an electric vehicle back then. The other, of course, is frostbite. What is frostbite? That can't happen. Like, what are you going outside naked when it's -50? No. I mean, to your point, Rhett, when we were on the backyard rinks or the ponds or the dugouts, as we used to call them.
Dugouts, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's -25, it's -30, and you couldn't even smile because your face was like rock solid. It was ridiculous. And then you'd come in, and a half hour later, dangerous as hell, you'd have that big white circle where it was literally frostbite. Yeah, that's frostbite. And the other thing, so my son's working out there now, and he's got a work truck. He works for a farm dealership, and I'm telling him, well, it's like literally -39, and it feels like -50 in Manitoba this morning. I'm like, bud, like you got to be careful when you're driving for obvious reasons. But I said, if that vehicle freezes up, you're in one. What do you mean freezes? It's not going to freeze up. I'm like, yeah, like it, back in the day, the cold air would get sucked into the motor and then the gas would gel and the oil would gel and everything would shut down. But again, apparently that doesn't happen it'll happen here because we're the coldest place on Earth right now. In Ontario.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get through it.
Yeah, the thoughts and prayers.
Polar vortex. What will the atmosphere be in Toronto?
Yeah. It's going to be raucous. It's going to be loud. Mitch is going to hear it every time he touches the puck. He's going to hear it before that in warm-up. They'll do a video tribute. I'm assuming it'll be fitting of the player that he was, a superstar for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm not sure that we'll be able to hear it because it'll probably be drowned out by all of the boos and whatnot. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some nonsense. And by nonsense, I mean, a fan throwing a $400 or $500 former Toronto Maple Leaf Mitch Marner jersey onto the ice. I mean, that's honestly what I expect. But now you flip it over, and what do I expect from Mitch Marner? I expect that once, he gets through the first dose of that noise, first shift or two in the first period, he'll put it behind him. We know the Vegas Golden Knights are a good team, and if Toronto isn't ready, then Marner's going to end up with 2-3 points, and Vegas is going to waltz out of Toronto with 2 points. So I think it's got multi-layers of entertainment built right into this one.
This is the moment where everyone reflects, and it's going to be a game that everyone around the league's paying attention to, and it's the biggest hockey market in the world, and it was a guy that probably should have gone down as the greatest Leaf of all time if things had gone well.
Yeah, maybe.
How are you sort of sorting through the Mitch Marner history lesson here as he returns to that building for the first time, not as a Leaf?
Yeah, well, I've heard about this many times on social media, and that's fine. I mean, we're all entitled to our opinion. In my case, mine is a bit more educated simply because I know the details. I know the feelings of his side. I know why things didn't work out in terms of a contract extension in Toronto and all of that. Toronto and most Canadian markets, more because of the volume in Toronto. The fan base does like to pick apart and pick at the carcass of certain players when things don't go well. And when you're paying $300-400 for a seat, hey, you can be as loud as you want, supportive or in a negative fashion. That's entirely up to you. I always felt like Marner was treated unfairly, both in salary expectation and in delivery and the lack of success in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Did he pull his weight in the playoffs? You could build a case he didn't. But there's a long line of players during the Marner era of the Toronto Maple Leafs that didn't do that. It wasn't all because of him. And I asked Carlo Koliakovo about this on Toronto radio earlier this morning. As a guy who grew up in the greater Toronto area, still as a home, that's Carlo, played for the Maple Leafs. I said, just imagine, as pro athletes, okay, you sign up to take the good, bad, and the ugly, right? You step onto the ice. Yeah, there's a chance you're going to get booed. Chances are, you're on home ice, you do something well, you're going to get cheered. But to then have to worry about the safety of your family because the local fan base is coming to your place of residence, throwing stuff on your lawn. You've got extra security, police enforcement at times, having to, stand watch over your home with your family inside. I mean, that's crossing every line in my book. And frankly, that was the world that Mitch Marner lived in. And, with his last contract in Toronto, of course, like many players, he negotiated a no move and a no trade. He didn't want to go to Carolina at the trade deadline or around the trade deadline. Well, that's his right. He was entitled to make that call, and at the end of the day, it came down to a negotiation, came down to a process. It really wasn't much of a negotiation. He just decided that in the best interest of his family, above all else, it was time for a change. And that change ended up landing in Vegas. I mean, it happens. It's just in this market, the volume consumes, and that's what it's done with Marner.
There's a lot of similarities to things here. Like Johnny Gaudreau always got a tough beat for his playoff performances. And you're like, yeah, well, how was Gio in the playoffs? How was Rasmus and Hanifin? How was Lindholm and Kachuk? Like a lot of their best players weren't at their best in the playoffs. And the stars are the ones that have to wear it. But I can't imagine if Johnny was a Calgarian and had spent his whole life here, the extra magnifying glass. And, I think maybe one of the healthiest parts about Mitch being in Vegas is that he can get out of that bubble where apparently anything that was murmured, said, tweeted, put on Facebook somehow got back to him. Like, I think Vegas is the perfect place for him because he can be a civilian. There was no chance of him ever being a civilian in Toronto.
No, and look, in fairness, Okay, I mean, if you end up getting Mikko Rantanen because Mitch Marner agrees to waive and goes to the Carolina Hurricanes, all right, that's a grand slam for Brad Treliving and the Maple Leafs. It didn't work out that way. That's not the way it played out. But, you know, Nick Waugh is a good player for the Maple Leafs. He is. And look, if Vegas and Toronto hadn't come to that agreement, Marner goes into free agency and he signs in Vegas for nothing. Now, you know, Vegas needed some assistance from a cap perspective, but they could have found other ways to do this. So I think everybody, frankly, is looking forward to getting this game over with. Probably Marner near the top of the list, the Vegas Golden Knights second. And I think, you know, the buddies, the pals that Marner left behind that still play for the Maple Leafs. We got a dose of Austin Matthews. And I don't know if this made it out your way or not. So the Vegas game last week, Matthews did a pregame interview. Did you guys see this with
No.
Mark Masters of TSN? And obviously Masters has to ask Austin Matthews, the captain and a good friend of Mitch Marner, what he felt, you know, going into this first game, you know, against Marner. And Matthews, I guess in fairness, answered, but very quickly said, and that'll be the last question about Mitch that I answered today, Mark. Like swiftly swatted this guy in a one-off interview, in a pregame, a one-on-one. It wasn't in a scrum, right? It wasn't at a podium. I mean, what else is one of the hosts of the pregame show supposed to ask the captain of the Leafs going into their first game against the Vegas Golden Knights with Mitch Marner? So, you know, it's these two games in close proximity have really boiled things over in this market. So in that respect too, I think everybody, myself included, I'm just looking forward to seeing the spectacle and then moving on and seeing what comes next.
It looked like Vegas had a bit of a trap game performance last night in Boston. They get down 3-rep very early, fight their way back, lose 4-3. And meanwhile, the Leafs can't stay healthy on the blue line all year. And, you know, Tanev may be done for the year. We're not getting a lot of clarity on his multiple injuries he suffered this year. Carlo apparently might be nicked up, and OEL left the game and seems to be out for a while. Like, how bad are they right now on the blue line that was seen as a sore spot almost right from the hop this year?
Yeah, I think the news is better than what we anticipated as late as yesterday morning. And it sounded like Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Brandon Carlo were trending towards being able to play as the day evolved. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. Did you guys see the picture, by the way, of Craig Berube, the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs? Okay, you got to scour. It's out there. I don't have it handy. It was posted on social media. Yeah, Jack will grab it. You got to see this. Yeah. You got to see this. So he's in the gym allegedly yesterday. And I'm going to assume, because it had to have been a nasty incident, he dropped a dumbbell or the barbell on his head. He has got a V gash right across the middle of his forehead. And we are talking multiple stitches to close the wound. His left eye is basically blackened and almost swollen shut. And he's doing media today. It looks like he's been in a car accident.
He's back in his game days.
Well, Dregs, I would tell people I was at the gym for sure, but what the hell actually happened?
Well, Jack, you got to find this thing because it is, or I'll send it to you.
No, he's got it. It'll pop
it's
up
borderline outrageous how bad this thing is.
Really?
Well, okay, he's got a hat on.
Yeah, the hat helps. That's a shiner.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can find it here quick. This is live on the spot stuff here.
Barube, when he played, wasn't afraid of black eyes, but different as a coach, Rhett.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Can you wear a hat on the bench nowadays? I know the dress code is changed.
Fedora. Yeah, but it's pretend it's an outdoor game. I got it.
See if you can see it. Oh, can you guys see it?
Jack's
pulling it up right now. Just give him 10 seconds.
Okay. All right. Because I'm covering where I got. Look at that. Look at that.
Whoa.
Like that's not a scratch.
That's a big ooh, geez.
You know, early in the year he did something like he ran into whatever and nicked the top of like his cranium is taking a beating this year because he had the divot early in the year.
That is serious.
But that's a wound. Like I mean, I'm not making, he's not playing the game, but back in the day, like that keeps you out of games for a while. But yeah, I mean, he was obviously very, very, he didn't get into the details of what exactly happened, but, said it was a gym accident. So we can assume something dropped on there, but he'd be in concussion protocol for the next 2 months if he were a player.
Well, we were talking about it. Like we had the picture of Connie on his introductory press conference. Like these jobs aren't easy. Like if Connie's been on the job just under 3 years, it looks like it's been like 5 days. We were joking. It was like the Obama thing. Like, was he president for 20 years? Look how much older he looks at the end. Apparently coaching in Toronto, not great for the anti-aging either.
No, but to get back to the blue line and what they've got coming. So we'll have to stay posted here on OEL and Brandon. Carlo definitely wasn't serious. He had tweaked something. And Chris Tanev, you guys wouldn't be surprised to hear this. I mean, this guy is still grinding away, trying to get healthy enough to return. And it doesn't sound great, but he's just not going to give up. He's just going to keep trying.
Do you applaud him for that? Or like Pospisil's came back for the Flames and it's been concussion stuff.
5th concussion.
From my understanding.
Yep.
A guy like Tanev. And I played an alumni game against Shoresy's Classic last night. And what I'm getting at is just that you see guys as alumni and you're like, you got to have some respect for the fact you have a post-career life.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Tanev's injuries are that it's going to affect that so much, but with Pospisil and head stuff, you worry about it. It's like, is anyone in the corner and should they be, or do you just applaud guys for trying to get back out there? Should somebody be saying, dude, pump the brakes?
Yeah, we said Tua Tagovailoa with Miami last year. Same thing. Like, just retire. You got $100 million. Like, your health is most important.
Yeah, well, for me, it's the doctors, and is it the second opinions that you get from outside the organization? I guess because you can invite all kinds of conspiracy theories unfairly. I would submit. If it's the doctor hired and employed by the Toronto Maple Leafs that ultimately makes that call. But at the end of the day, the buck should stop medically in that position. But I think, and Rhett, you probably got to this place. I think it was Larry Murphy told the story way back when of how he knew it was his time to retire. And he basically said when he got to a point where it took him 3 or 4 strides to get from the blue line into the corner, as opposed to in his prime, it would take him 2 good heavy strides and he'd be there. Like just the quickness. And he just went, ooh, geez. That's not going to fly to play the game the way I need to play the game. Yeah. And that was the big red flag to retirement. And sometimes you're fortunate because Mother Nature, Father Time takes over and you feel healthy, but you just realize you can't compete at that level anymore. So you walk away. And in this case, Chris is a warrior, man. He's just one of those guys that he's going to go down swinging, but maybe that's what it's going to take. Where a doctor says, hey, you need surgery to live out your life as healthy as you can. And look, it reminds me of the Alex Pietrangelo situation with the Vegas Golden Knights. And there were people going, oh, sure, this is just a convenient way for Vegas to get off a contract and do this and do that. Mm-hmm. No. This guy wants to be able to play with his children and get to a healthy place where, geez, if he wants to play golf once a week, that's okay. He can play golf once a week rather than add more wear and tear. And, I guess Tanev isn't quite there yet.
Last week, you talked about Vegas scooping in on Andersson. I don't think we've gotten your
That's right. You kind of you foreshadowed that brilliantly. And I guess after long thought, the longer it didn't get done with Boston, the more with your help, we all felt like it was going to be Vegas. Walk us through.
Well, so I know what happened, and there were multiple teams that were in on it, and that spiced things up for Craig Conroy and the Flames. Boston was right there. It feels like the 2 teams pushing at the end. Boston and Vegas, obviously. I'm told that Kelly McCrimmon sweetened his offer a little bit. I don't know what it looked like originally, but he sweetened the offer. and made it so that it was acceptable even as a rental package. And look, I think the smart money is on the belief that Rasmus Andersson will sign a contract with the Vegas Golden Knights. So in this case, it wasn't a sign and trade. And then you go back to the trade breaking on Sunday. And as Craig Conroy acknowledged, the Andersson camp, Claude Lemieux, alerting Calgary that, okay, well, at this point, Rasmus isn't interested in signing in Boston. He's not interested in signing anywhere. So you have no choice but to move him to a rental. And, because of what I said, Vegas sweetening a little bit, Calgary knowing that Rasmus Andersson preferred to go to Vegas, it all just kind of fell into place after that.
Yeah. Let's stay with the Flames. That's a deal we knew was going to get done. He's a UFA. The questions around the next 2 months until the deadline are Coleman's got a year left. Nazem Kadri is 35, but will turn 36 next year. Is 3 years up. He'll be a 38-year-old at the end of this contract.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Zach Whitecloud, who they get back in the Andersson deal, is very attractive right shot defenseman at 2.75 a year and a known commodity that's won a cup. We knew they were going to move off the rentals. That's what they always do. But where's the appetite to move off the guys that aren't UFAs this summer? And how would you peg the probability of a Coleman, Kadri, or Whitecloud deal?
Well, I feel like Kadri is more likely than less likely. And I think that that's a combination of things. Naz, as you pointed out, is turning 36. He's chasing that Stanley Cup. If there's an opportunity to go to a cup contending team, then he's all in for that. And he hopes, of course, that in doing that, he also gives something back by way of return to the Calgary Flames. He doesn't have full trade protection. So that's going to be the challenge for Craig Conroy to make Nazem Kadri happy. But obviously his best interest is doing what he has to do as general manager of the Calgary Flames. So for me, that's where I'm paying attention to. Not that I'm overlooking the idea of Coleman or Zach Whitecloud, but because the market is still relatively thin at center ice, I do know that there is interest in Kadri. Coleman, as we've talked about before here, guys, is complicated. So if you get a decent package for Kadri, if he goes out, I think you tighten up on Blake Coleman because of everything that he brings to the Flames. He's phenomenal with the younger guys, and he's a heck of a hockey player, and he's good in the community, and you need pieces to continue to stay competitive with. So I think it's a premium buy if you're engaging with the Flames on Coleman. And Whitecloud is interesting to me. Obviously, there's no history in Calgary, but everything that I know based on his time in Vegas is that he's beloved by the fan base. And as Kelly McCrimmon openly talked about, just a hell of a teammate and an all-around good player and a good piece. So I can appreciate the interest in Whitecloud on the trade front. I think that Connie has to consider it based on where Calgary is, but I'm not entirely sold if that's in the best interest moving forward.
Okay, last one. Jack and I are off to Jasper. We're going to be surrounded by Oilers honks, and so we need a really educated position. Are the Edmonton Oilers a team that nothing matters in the regular season and we'll judge them in the spring? Or are they 17th in the NHL, struggling at 5-on-5 and can't win unless their two superstars are great? Like, you could make a case for both, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could. And right now it feels like the latter is more applicable, to be fair. Now you're right. They can flip a switch. And as they've shown in recent history, they can get hot when it matters most in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Their goaltending is now inching towards being more stable to a point where they've got a decision to make. What are they going to do with those three guys? Pierre LeBrun talked about the brain trust there coming out of their scouting meetings last week and talking about the need for a top 9 forward. I think that top 9 need has been there for what? Years? I mean, they keep trying to inject these pieces. Trent Frederick, Mangiapane, I mean, go down the list. They're trying to find lightning in a bottle, and they just haven't been successful in that regard. But you got to keep trying. So I'm leaning towards the latter. But would any of us be surprised if they go deep again? No. No. I'm more intrigued, not to shift gears on you guys, but
Okay.
as to what some of the outlier teams are doing, like Utah and Seattle. And I talked about this on Insider Trading last night. Seattle is huge into adding a top 3 winger or a top 6 winger. Okay, well, what are you giving up to get a piece like that? And they feel like they've got strength up the middle of the ice. And that's why there has been speculation around Shane Wright. I mean, this kid was drafted 4th overall in 2022. And until the Montreal Canadiens made that pick and went with Juraj Slafkovsky, there were many who thought that Shane Wright was going 1st overall. But he's not thrilled with his ice allocation. It's the age-old story. Play better, you'll get more ice. All right, well, play me more and I'll play better. Like, that's kind of where they're at. It's a fixable relationship, but I know that Jason Botterill is at least listening on Shane Wright. I think there's got to be a big audience for that kid, wouldn't you think? I mean,
I would imagine.
It's weird because he was the presumptive one. And then as we got closer and closer to the draft, it was like, well, hang on. Like,
those kids missed a year.
And it was the COVID one. And some of these other guys actually played. I think Shane Wright got 0 games in the O that year because they never got started. Like, I feel for the kid because it feels like that was a huge developmental year that just got deleted. And the ceiling we thought that this player that could have gone 1 had, we haven't seen it yet.
No, we haven't. And you got to worry if your management in Seattle, no different than some speculation I'm reading in other markets, Winnipeg included. Like, I think of Logan Stanley, and I thought I saw Cole Perfetti's name out there somewhere. Well, that's great if you're getting back exactly what you need moving forward. If you don't, and those kids pop with a new start in a new situation, well, that's when the owners get grumpy and going, okay, wait a minute here. Now we're seeing this kid or that kid or whatever develop and take off with a fresh start. Why did that happen? What did we miss in all of this? And that's why being a general manager sucks. That's why they get the big bucks. Making calls when you're talking about, first round draft picks. I think of, Wright 4th overall, Perfetti 10th overall. And again, at this point, it's all speculation. And teams are calling, which is why we're talking about it. But you can also appreciate why the GMs are even engaging in those conversations. Yeah. It's just through pure necessity to make their own team better.
Aside from the one-off against Colorado in round 1 in year 2, it feels like Seattle really needs, if they're close, to get in to make a not that their season ticket fan isn't in trouble. Like, they got 20,000 person wait list or whatever, but they need some tangible success there. And I think even more so in Utah, where they've been just acquiring young assets forever in Arizona. And now this new owner's like, I got you your practice facility. I've renovated the rink to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. Yeah. We want to win now. Like, it feels like those are the two owner, president, GM groups where it's like they're ready to push.
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it. And I couldn't describe it better than you just did. And that's why there's an element of pressure that goes along with that from a manager's perspective too. Utah is fascinating to me. I mean, that's a good young lineup. And you can see with some ads, I don't know. I don't think that they're quite ready yet to go up against the big boys. And I might say the same in the Seattle Kraken, although there's more balance, the experience, in my opinion, in Seattle. But Ryan Smith in Utah, he has thrown everything he's got, at making that organization as viable and as comfortable as it can be, almost comparing against the best of the best and creature comforts and all of those things. So if you're Bill Armstrong, the head of hockey operations for the Utah Mammoth, you better make sure that every stone has been overturned in trying to utilize the assets you have to give your hockey club the best chance for success. And if they make the playoffs, man, that'd be a great story there. And maybe that would be enough for ownership in Utah to go, okay, job well done.
Great stuff. We can keep you forever. Have a great weekend.
Stay warm.
We always appreciate.
Stay warm.
Geez, gosh, get off the ice. Don't. It's
Plug in your
10.
vehicle.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just locking in. I'm not going anywhere this weekend.
Shut in.
Too cold to move.
Get those tickets sorted out. I'd advise you to go to the game tonight. I feel like we're gonna get some fireworks with Marner coming back.
I hope so. Yeah. You know what? I had a mental reprieve in talking with you guys, and now I'm pissed off again because I got arrested with this nonsense.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Hey, buddies, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.